tallest trees in the world are redwoods, which tower above the ground in California. These trees can easily reach heights of 300 feet. Among the redwoods, a tree named Hyperion tops them all. Standing at 380 feet, Hyperion also shares its name with the Titan god of heavenly light. Coming in second for the world's tallest trees is Helios, standing at 374 feet. And for the bronze medal, we have another redwood called Icarus at 371 feet high. Interesting names. Now, the widest tree that we know of is called El Árbol del Tule in Santa Maria del Tule, Mexico. This tree has a circumference of 164 feet, and it dwarfs the town church by a large amount. The largest tree by volume and not height or circumference is a sequoia called General Sherman, 275 feet tall with a circumference of nearly 103 feet. Now, these are just some of the world's tallest trees that are standing today. Needless to say, the sizes of some of Earth's remaining trees are absolutely mind-blowing, and the thing is, they used to be much bigger. Here's an article about an Australian mountain ash from 1872. The tallest tree ever measured was not a sequoia, but a type of eucalyptus, an Australian hardwood tree. In 1872, forester William Ferguson spotted an extremely tall mountain ash near the Watts River, Victoria, Australia. Purportedly, he was 132.6 meters, or 435 feet tall. Around that time, multiple specimens of 140 meters tall were reported in Victoria, mainland Australia. We cannot check these measurements anymore. All these trees have been logged. Mountain ash was and is an important construction material in Australia. This brings me to my next point. Do the trees of the world get bigger and bigger the further we go back in history? We have some records of men cutting down extremely large trees in mass quantities. If trees of this magnitude were cut down by men in the 18 and early 1900s, then that begs the question, have we cut down even bigger trees before that? We don't know. But we do know that men love mindlessly taking out trees like there's no tomorrow. Was there once a time when trees were unimaginable in size and they reached high up into the heavens? Maybe this is true.
The tree grew and was strong, and the height thereof reached unto heaven, and the sight thereof to the end of all the earth.
Here the Bible says tree, and I think this is referring only to the world tree, also known as the tree of life, located at the center of the world, and that would be the North Pole. In depictions of the Norse cosmology, the tree of life, Yggdrasil, is growing from the center of a mountain. Here's a passage from the book of Enoch, kinda talking about that.
And from there I went to the middle of the earth, and saw a blessed, well-watered place, which had branches which remained alive, and sprouted from a tree which had been cut down. And there I saw a holy mountain, and under the mountain, to the east of it, there was water, and it flowed towards the south. And in the midst of the trees, that of life, in that place whereon the Lord rests, when he goes up into paradise. And this tree is of ineffable goodness and fragrance, and adorned more than every existing thing. And on all sides it is in form gold-looking, and vermilion and fire lichen covers all, and it has produced from all fruits. Its root is in the garden at the earth's end.
End is Eden. Mythologies from all over the earth plane reference a tree or sometimes a mountain there instead. Sometimes both at once, as we have just seen with the depiction of Yggdrasil. Maybe humongous trees used to be the norm. We are told that natural landmarks like the Devil's Tower are made by lava cooling in that shape, and that the lava dries up into neat little hexagonal columns. But when you look into how basalt columns are formed, you will not be able to watch how they are formed. Instead, we are told to just believe that basalt columns are the result of lava cooling down and cracking into hexagonal columns on its own. But when we look at how lava actually works, it never dries like that. It oozes chaotically before cooling down and drying in a random manner. It's merely circumstantial. No one has ever witnessed basalt columns form, therefore the official explanation is very much up for debate. So is the Devil's Tower an ancient tree stump? Are there more of these kind of structures? The answer is yes. Everything that we have ever been taught is up for debate, being that we've been taught mostly lies when it comes to where we come from, who we are, what our purpose is, and where we live. Our true history has been changed, rearranged, rewritten, and hidden from us. This video is a joint effort between myself, ODD, Rosette, and two awesome gentlemen named Shaddy and Cracker. We hope to bring forth food for thought, intriguing ideas, and even new information for those that have already been researching this topic. So with all that said, I'll pass it off to Rosette. Be sure to subscribe to her channel as well.
Thanks, ODD. Being awake is not all bad. Yes, it's scary at first knowing our government is not our friend, that the world really is run by psychopaths who follow Lucifer. But there is a good side to this knowing too, and that is connecting with like-kind people who want to help change the world for the better. Now, we can't do a series called Ancient Tree Research Project without discussing the giant cedars of Lebanon. This is the one place on earth that is known for its giant trees. These same giant trees come up in the Bible in 47 verses. Why? What is so special about these trees? Are they hiding some more truths in plain sight? Let's take a look at some of the evidence. Now let's locate Lebanon geographically so we get a feel for the land. Lebanon is nestled between Israel on its southern border and Syria on both its north and east. And just over the waters of the Mediterranean is its closest western neighbor, the island nation of Cyprus.
Notice Cyprus, the neighboring island country to Lebanon, could indicate cypress as in the tree, and cypress has fragrant wood just as a cedar tree does. This is a picture of an ancient cypress tree. Cedar trees are part of the cypress family of conifers or pines. Could cypress actually be an ancient giant cypress stump that is sticking up out of the water as an island?
Speaking of Cyprus, Cyprus is visible with the naked eye on a clear day from the highest point in Lebanon, which is called El Araz. It peaks at 3,083 meters above sea level. These mountains get covered in snow during the winter time, except for a place called Arnet Esolda. This is said to be a special place where Noah planted a special seed right after the flood.
Remember also that Lebanon is part of the ancient land of Canaan, known as the Promised Land in the Bible. Canaan consisted of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Israel, and was also known as Phoenicia. Now, what's interesting is that when looking up the etymology for Lebanon, we find that it originates from the Phoenician root Leban, which means white. So Lebanon is implied in the coding. The giant cedars are mentioned 47 times in the Bible. That's an awful lot of times. Now we know these trees were giant by particular passages in the Bible. In Ezekiel 31:3 we read, "Behold, Assyria was a cedar in Lebanon with beautiful branches and forest shade, and very high, and its top was among the clouds." The cedars were among the clouds. They have to be pretty tall to be that high. In Psalms 80:10 it states, "The mountains were covered with its shadow, and the cedars of God with its boughs." So the cedars were taller and bigger than the mountains. They shadowed the mountains. And notice what kind of man is associated with these majestic trees. In Psalms 92:12 we read, "The righteous man will flourish like the palm tree. He will grow like a cedar in Lebanon." So it's on the flag. It's in the Bible. Where else can we find the giant cedars? How about in the landscape?
The big mountain is called Al-Araz, which means the cedar in Arabic. It is the landscape and part of everyday life in the oldest Maronite Christian towns and villages which surround the mountain. The valley, or Al-Wadi al-Nubin, is Arabic for the Valley of the Holy Saints, or the Holy Valley. The mountains and the valleys provide excellent climate for growing the most beautiful fruit and vegetables, from apples and olives to pears and cherries. Now, why would a civilization dating centuries ago name a mountain after a tree? It wouldn't make sense unless the mountain was a tree, a giant tree that has been cut down. This cut portion starts at 1800 meters above sea level, which would be equivalent of a 60-story building. And that is just at the base. Notice how this cut portion is already among the clouds, as mentioned in and throughout Ezekiel. The mountain is also home to pine tree forests and cedar tree forests, which is called Az al-Rab, which translates to the cedars of God.
And observe how the mountain looks separate from the floor. El Arez isn't a continuous mound of rock and dirt that slopes to the ground. Instead, El Arez extends downwards like you see on tree roots at the base of a tree. This also has a flat top, or mesa. Mesa meaning table. Table of the giants? In nature, with erosion from wind and rain, you would not get a level top like a tabletop. You would get an irregular and rough pattern where rock becomes loose and gives way. So a flat top implies some form of cutting or sawing. The coloration is also similar to a tree trunk and can be distinguished from the plain below.
My name is ODD, and I am one out of a growing population of people that believe that many of the buttes and mesas that we see used to actually be giant trees, but now they are just remnants of what they once were. You can find these ancient tree stumps all over the earth. We have Ben Bulben in Ireland, Jugurtha tableland in Tunisia, Mount Connor in Australia, also known as the Crimson Plateau, Mount Garfield here in Colorado, where I live, which is the New World Order headquarters for North America. Check out a video called The Colorado Conspiracy for more on that. Next, we have the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. Table Mountain in South Africa. Los Órganos in the Canary Islands. This one has basalt columns like the Devil's Tower. And in Venezuela, there are many. Cucanan Tepuy, Mount Roraima, Cerro Atana, or Atana Mountain, just to name a couple. And what's really cool about Cerro Atana is that the native people here, the Piaroa, have a rich oral tradition for their mythology, and that includes Cerro Atana as once being the tree of life. Here on the wiki for Cerro Atana, we read, "For the Piaroa Indians, the original inhabitants of the area, Atana is a sacred mountain. It is Kueme Yoho, the stump of the sacred tree of the fruits of the world." Piaroan mythology tells how the treetop went as high as the infinite, and its branches were full of fruits which fell and gave life to the Amazon. One day, Wahari and his nephew, which had been transformed into a lapa, cut down the tree to get all the fruits at once. Speaking of cutting down trees, chapter 66 in the book of Enoch explains who cut these giants down. "In those days, the word of God came to me and said, Noah, behold, thy lot has ascended up to me, a lot void of crime, a lot beloved and upright. Now then shall the angels labor at the trees. But when they proceed to this, I will put my hand upon it and preserve it. The seed of life shall arise from it, and a change shall take place, that the dry land may not be left empty. I will establish thy seed before me forever and ever, and the seed of those who dwell with thee on the surface of the earth. It shall be blessed and multiplied in the presence of the earth, in the name of the Lord." Specifically, angels labored at the trees translates to Nephilim cut down the trees. And then God stepped in to preserve the seed, which is why we still have trees. Granted, they are no longer the humongous size that they once were. Also, another interesting thing that I found comes from a book called Patriarchs and Prophets by Ellen G. White. In chapter 7, The Flood, it says this: "In the days of Noah, a double curse was resting upon the earth in consequence of Adam's transgression and of the murder committed by Cain. Yet this had not greatly changed the face of nature. There were evident tokens of decay, but the earth was still rich and beautiful in the gifts of God's providence. The hills were crowned with majestic trees, supporting the fruit-laden branches of the vine." Nah, I'm just kidding. The vast garden-like plains were clothed with verdure and sweet with the fragrance of 1,000 flowers. The fruits of the earth were in great variety and almost without limit. Yummy. The trees far surpassed in size, beauty, and perfect proportion any now to be found. Their wood was of fine grain and hard substance, closely resembling stone, and hardly less enduring. Gold, silver, and precious stones existed in abundance." So you hear that? The trees far surpassed in size, beauty, and perfect proportion any now to be found. That just means that the trees were way bigger back then. Their wood was of fine grain and hard substance, closely resembling stone. If you are new to this idea, then watch a video called No Forests on Flat Earth. It's the video that changed everything when it came out in 2016. Also, Rosette has a playlist of her own videos called There Are No Forests Decoded. Be sure to check that out. I completely understand that this sounds crazy, and even I wanted nothing to do with it when it first came up. But the more you look into it, the realer it gets. It becomes quite clear that we are merely living in the aftermath of what used to be, and even the smaller version of trees that we see today are being wiped out with no problem. If the money-hungry corporations don't handle it, then things like chemtrails will. They are rapidly destroying our environment while the politicians yell global warming and blame you. It's just sad, really, and at times it seems that there's nothing you can do, but there is something that you can do. While you are here, you can be your best and treat yourself, your friends, your family, and your surroundings with respect. You can make others aware that are around you so that they can make better choices for themselves. Sharing is caring. The fact is, whatever is happening here on Earth is something that is meant to play out a certain way. This is why there are so many synchronicities. This is why the Bible contains so much truth and prophesizes what's going on in the world today. We seem to be trapped in an endless cycle, and we always will be unless we get it right, and we far from have it right this time around. The messed up thing is that the world is only going to get worse unless you decide to make a change. Every individual counts in the whole. So start being a better person today and quit letting the psychopaths that use money to enslave you control your mind and what you think.